Welcome everyone to a very special edition of Slogfest World T20. I'm Shivani Gupta, and joining me in the studio today as my co-host is our consulting editor Boria Majumdar, and joining us on our set are two brilliant former cricketers and legends of the game.
You can't say more for an India-Australia contest. Stephen Waugh, one of the greatest that Australia has produced. Nasser Hussain, Sachin Tendulkar calls him the best captain he has faced. Welcome gentlemen, welcome to the show. Virtual quarterfinals. Steve, why don't you start?
It is, yeah, it is a virtual quarterfinal, so both sides need to improve. I think they both recognise the fact that against Bangladesh they weren't at their best. They both have the potential to win this World Cup, but they've got to start playing much better shortly. Yeah, I think for Australia, David Warner is the key. If he can find some form, he's the most damaging batsman we have. He can be a match winner. For India, I think they're top three. As I said previously, I believe they've been reading too much about the press and they haven't played in a relaxed manner, and they've got to just release themselves and play their natural way. If they can do that, then they're quite capable of winning the World Cup as well.
Nasser, you're supporting India in this one? Since we have Steve on the Australia side?
I've become the Indian expert somehow. Listen, they'll be happy to get a good pitch. Mohali tends to be a good pitch. It's been a good pitch in this tournament. India have been plagued by poor pitches wherever they've got, whether it be the weather in Kolkata or the dry one in Nagpur. Even Bengaluru wasn't a great pitch. So their batsmen will want pace on the ball, and they'll find a bit of form. Otherwise you lose the rhythm of batting a little bit. So they've all lost the rhythm of batting a bit, and they obviously overcame that final three deliveries against Bangladesh, which was a massive moment for them in the tournament.
Absolutely, but since we are building up to the big India versus Australia virtual knockout match, let's take a look back in time and take a look at some of the key battles that India and Australia have faced in the shorter format and just how that has gone. All right, so Sachin Tendulkar has been a great one against Australia, isn't it, Steve? You would have some memories like the Sharjah one. That is an iconic moment in India-Australian history.
Been trying to erase those memories for a while, but he got. I remember Alan Border was our coach manager on that trip, and he got 141 on this match where he played incredibly well. And we had a team meeting the next day because we played India again the following match.
Yeah.
And I remember Alan Border saying, "Look, it's okay, boys. You can't do that again." Then he came out and got 143 not out the next match, and that was the best one-day batting I'd ever seen. He just totally won both those games. So India-Australia have we have a fierce record against each other. Competition always brings the best out in both the players. I think we're due for a 2020 win. We lost 3-0 in Australia. Virat Kohli and his team did some amazing chases. But I think this game you'll see a high-quality game of cricket. Australia will be ready for it. India will be ready for it.
Stephen Smith batting David Warner in the middle order. Obviously it's a team management call. Is David Warner best suited at number 4, or is Australia missing a trick?
I think Australia are missing a trick. I agree with Steve. Dave Warner is their most explosive, destructive player, carefree player, doesn't complicate the game on any surface really. I think he's good in India, he's good on pacey pitches. I would have Warner and Finch at the top, probably Khawaja at 3. If I'm an opposition captain, I'm quite happy if David Warner is sitting there with 5 overs gone, 6 overs gone, 7 overs gone, because he can destroy you as a team. He's got a good record against India. He plays well against India. And if you're going to beat India, you need your star players to perform. You're not going to do it with just an average performance. You're going to have to need your big gun players, of which David Warner is one, put in a big gun performance. So I would have him at the top of the order, if not the top 3, certainly not 4.
And what we've already seen in the match against Pakistan, Steve, is that Aaron Finch, who was conspicuous with his absence in the playing 11, has been brought back in. So has been Hazelwood. So a couple of corrections already before that India match in the Australian lineup.
Yeah, look, I hate to say it, but I agree with Nasser on the batting order. Yeah, look, Finch definitely should have been inside from day one. I mean, he's been our #1 T20 player. He was captain up till a couple of months ago. So I think we sort of messed around too much with the team, and they lost the karma or the balance. And having him back in there, I think, is a good move. Warner is a key player, but the one guy who needs to, I believe, is Maxwell for Australia. He's a much better player than he's shown. I just would love to see him play more of a more technical game rather than playing reverse sweeps from the word go and all these funky shots, which he's quite capable of. But he's such a good player, he doesn't need to play them all the time. I'd like to see him play a more traditional role on the side, and he can be the match winner in the middle order.
If I can take from that, in fact, that was my next question, Nasser, about Maxwell. Is he trying to be a little bit too much of a showboat? Has this fame gone to him? I mean, conventional match-winning cricket with trying to be a Usain Bolt of cricket?
Well, I would say that was the case if he's suddenly changed, but I don't think that he's always been the big show. He's always been like that. He played in England last year, and there was a Lancashire-Yorkshire game, and first ball of the game, he switch hit for 6 to show that's what he is. So, you know, but any cricketer, whoever you are, you've got to give yourself 2, 3, 4 overs to get yourself in, and then show everyone he can destroy you in those last 3, 4 overs of the innings. So otherwise, if he goes too early, 20 overs is quite a long time. I know that may sound stupid. If you go early, 14, 15 overs, you're wasted in those last 2 or 3 overs if you're sat there with your pads on in the dressing room. So I think Maxwell, get yourself in, and then you can be one of the most destructive at the death. You can't bowl to him when he's in full flow.
I think he hasn't done himself justice. So I look at his record overall. He had a fantastic Shield season a couple of years ago. He had 4 centuries. The IPL, whilst he's done pretty well, he hasn't got a lot of runs of India. He got those runs, I think, when the tournament was taken outside of India. So he just needs to I think, settle down. And as I say, give himself more of a chance. Give himself some more overs. I agree with Nasser. Even though it's 20 overs, there's always more time than you think.
That's right. But since we started off with Sachin Tendulkar, someone who's taken on his shoes quite well is Virat Kohli. But there's the likes of Rohit Sharma, Steve, and the likes of Yuvraj, who's on a comeback of sorts, who've always liked playing against Australia, isn't it? Yuvraj in the 2007 World Cup, took it upon himself to beat Australia. And we got many who play well against Australia. So should Australia be worried?
Yeah, look, I still recall Yuvraj. I played in his first match, when he played his first match for India, I think it was in Kenya. And he got 71 again on a pretty bouncy track against Glenn McGrath. I thought, geez, India have found someone special here. So he's been around a long while. He's got that experience. I think he's a bit susceptible to quick bowling right now. I don't think he's at his best, but he does bring experience to the side. Rohit Sharma is a world-class player. Again, a bit like Glenn Maxwell. I think he just needs to give himself a bit more of a chance. Shikhar Dhawan is a fantastic player. But I've got to say, I was really impressed by Pandya the other day. I tend to sort of, when I watch games of cricket, I just look for moments where something just stands out, and that second ball 6 he hit was so effortless, and his balance and the way he handled the pressure. He took a good catch on the boundary. I thought he bowled okay. I think he's a real good player for India going forward.
When he mentions Pandya, and the other person I want to talk about to you is Ashwin. I mean, when you compare the two teams in terms of spin, Adam Zampa, Ashton Agar, Ravichandran Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja. Yes, Mohali will not be the same. But do you think that's a massive, massive difference?
Oh, of course. It's a bit of an unfair comparison, you know, an Indian spinner against two very young Australian spinners. But the one thing with Ashwin, the ball coming out of his hand is absolutely technically brilliant at the moment. Forget what type of cricket they're playing. It's coming out beautifully. When you do the slow-mo replays, the angle of the seam, the drift he's getting. Okay, he's bowling on some turning pitches, but I think even on flat pitches, I think Ashwin will be a handful. I love the way they use him at the top, just to surprise people, just occasionally throw him in like they did against Pakistan, and the openers did not know how to play him, albeit on an absolute Bunsen burner of a pitch. But Ashwin is bowling beautifully. I think Zampa's got something about him, by the way. I think Zampa could be, in years to come, very good. I was a bit surprised about the Agar selection, because in India you need your best spinners. You need your frontline spinners, not someone who bowls and bats a little bit. When it's turning, you need your best spinners. And definitely in Ashwin, you've got arguably the best spinner in the world at the moment.
That's right. We've also invited certain questions from fans, Steve and Nasser, and they want to prick your brains as well. So let's take the first question from a viewer for Steve Waugh.
Steve, you've seen the India-Australia rivalry over the years. You've even seen it at its violent peak when a lot of, really hostile things were being said. How do you assess the current state of the rivalry between India and Australia?
Look, I think IPL has played a big part in players getting to know each other and realising you're not such bad human beings after all. It's funny, when you're playing cricket, you're sort of so focused on doing well for your side that you don't really get to know the players from the other sides. But now they do, so I think that's sort of broken down a bit of the myths of different cultures and different people. So the sides get on fine. I don't think that's an issue.
So they're all best friends now, is it?
Well, you don't want to be best friends because you've still got a job to do, and in crunch situations, in some ways, we sort of we wanted that reputation that we're a bit hard-nosed and hard to get on with, because then the opposition didn't know you. When I first played against the West Indies, we were intimidated by the West Indies because they never spoke to us. You just saw the way they played their cricket. They had great body language. They were very positive in the press. They played a certain way with a certain attitude, and because we didn't know much about them, we were more intimidated. So we tended to sort of play that role back in our era when we were doing well, but these days the players know each other so well, it's pretty hard to do that anymore.
All right, let's take our first question for Nasser as well.
Nasser, should India change their batting lineup? Should they tinker with the playing 11? Or should they continue with the same team which went against Bangladesh?
It's a good question. I would stay with the same side, to be honest. I know Rahane is the spare batsman who's a wonderful... He shows what a good batting lineup you've got if Rahane's not in your side. It's a magnificent player. But you're getting now down to crucial knockout stage. The top two are brilliant players. I think they both need pace on the ball. That's why they're struggling, Dhawan and Rohit. Look how they played against Australia, Rohit in particular. You know, they like pace on the ball. Their hands go through the ball well. Dhawan's hands go through the ball. So once they get to Mohali and have that pace on the ball, I think they'll be fine. When you get... I don't like tinkering when you get down to this stage of the tournament. I don't like sort of, oh, I'll bring him in for one. If this was your best side to beat Bangladesh, and before Pakistan, this should be your best side to win the next 3 games. We're down to win 3, win the World Cup.
Absolutely. I like that Nasser is saying we've got 3 more to go. Even though the next one is a virtual knockout and we haven't quite secured our place. But on that... Welcome back. We're in conversation with Steve Waugh and Nasser Hussain and building up to that mega clash in Mohali, India versus Australia. And that will decide just who goes on into the semi-final from this group. First up, we've got another Twitter question.
I mean, this day and age of digital technology, people keep firing away, and the whole idea here is to be as interactive as possible. So if we can have the Twitter question for Nasser, please. So there you go with the World T20 halfway. Who's the new strong champion contender? Difficult one.
Crikey, I mean, this tournament is so hard to call. Not just this particular tournament, but 5 different winners from 5 different previous World Cups. So, you know, at the start you'd have said India, definitely. India's record has been magnificent this year. I would still say India, not because I want to get out of this country alive, but home conditions, playing here, knowing the conditions, and not being at their best, but still very much in the tournament. So I like the way West Indies are just quietly plodding along. No one's mentioning them. West Indies quietly going about their business. So many superstars, so many big hitters, big strong lads, bowl quickly, field well, bit of style and skill from Bravo. I'd say India and West Indies are the 2 favourites for me.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned New Zealand, because interestingly, the 2 sides that haven't been bothered at all, New Zealand and West Indies, they're slipping under the radar a little bit, isn't it? All the rest are getting talked about a lot because they were much stronger contenders at the start.
There's a few there I haven't mentioned. You know, New Zealand, South Africa, look at the South African side, you know. So I haven't mentioned England, who lose, win in the middle of a game. They look like they're losing and out of the tournament. So no one can tell. But the 2 sides that I would really fear playing against in these conditions would be India and West Indies.
All right, we've got another one coming in through video for Steve Waugh.
Hi Steve, you famously said that you should leave when people ask you why and not why not. So if Dhoni does manage to win this World T20 with his team of boys, do you think it's time for him to say goodbye to cricket?
Good question.
Nice easy question. Look, something about MS Dhoni, he just keeps on doing the job at the top level. He's even the other night, the last ball, many keepers would have panicked and had a shot at the stumps and potentially missed it, but he summed it up in a split second. He had enough time to break the stumps, and I mean, basically the Bangladesh batsman was out by a couple of inches. So that's, you can't buy that sort of experience. So in big match situations, he's still a great player. It's really up to him how much longer he wants to play. What else has he got to achieve out of the game? If he wins this T20 World Cup, then he's pretty much covered everything off. You know, India, #1 ranked Test play nation under his control. They won the 50 over World Cup, and now this. You know, there may be a potential to retire, but I've got the feeling he's probably got a few more years left yet.
He said so in as many words, I'm not going anywhere, and I think at one point he said that he will play the 2019 World Cup as well. That's a long way away.
Well, if he's lucky, I mean, why wouldn't you these days? I mean, it's a great lifestyle playing cricket, particularly when now he's not playing tests. You know, the pressure's pretty much off. He can relax. He can play the short forms of the game so easily. I mean, he averages 50 in one-day cricket. Incredible record, and 2020 he's a match winner as well, so why wouldn't he keep playing?
Interestingly, he doesn't have a 50 in the one-day, in the T20 format.
No, but I mean, he bats
down
the order.
order.
Listen, he's keeping really well at the moment. His glove work on these spinning pitches have been absolutely brilliant. And I agree with Steve. I mean, they probably would have won that game the other night if it wasn't for Dhoni. You sometimes don't realise what you've got until it's gone. And I don't think India will realise how good Dhoni has been under pressure. until he's gone. So try and keep hold of him for as long as possible. But I think the decision will be with Dhoni, no one else.
All right, Nasser, we have another one coming in for you on video. So let's take a look.
Nasser, when you were playing against Australia, did you face any sledging? And do you think that'll be the tactic against India?
A lot of sledging.
What a ridiculous question. Of course there was no sledging.
How long have we got on Australian sledging? Yeah, the World Cup would have been finished.
That's such a silly question.
Okay, I'll change it.
Okay.
How much did Steve Waugh sledge?
Oh, Steve was sort of more mental disintegration. You know, Steve would watch the highlights from the night before and listen to what Bob Willis and Ian Botham were saying. And then just as you take guard, he would mention something about your batting average against Shane Warne. So apart from the sledging from Warne and Hayden and Langer and Gilchrist and McGrath and
it was
Steve
it was
Waugh,
encouragement.
apart from that, yeah,
Trying to bring the best out in you.
Shane would tell you how many times he's got you out. And McGrath, the only time you know you were winning is when McGrath was sledging you. If McGrath was sledging you, then you knew you were getting a few runs, which was very rare.
If Glenn was tugging at his shirt when you knew you're on top.
Flapping his cap and hitting his cap on his knee, then you knew you were actually for once playing okay against Australia.
But once again, Steve, this side doesn't sledge that much, isn't it? They've not really
We've never
carried on
sledged.
your
I don't know where this
tradition.
came from. Who started this?
Alan Border, are they?
Games, a bit of banter. That's the way we're brought up in the backyards of in Australia. So look, yeah, look, we played it tough on the field, and you know, we like to get, I guess, under the opposition skin. With Nasser, we used to have a bit of fun because you have the big screens at the ground, and when he'd sort of play and miss, and we felt sometimes Nasser squared himself up a bit at the crease. We give him a bit of technical advice, and you can see the steam coming out the ear, so you'd have a bit of fun.
Well, this Indian side too is pretty aggressive, isn't it? Virat Kohli leading the pack, Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan. But on that note, let's take another Twitter question, this time for Steve Waugh. Okay, S. Jalan writes in, don't you think Yuvraj Singh and Dhawan are being given a long rope? Young players are in line, Steve.
Shikhar Dhawan's a great player. I love watching him. He's a match winner. If he gets it right, all of India will be celebrating. Yuvraj Singh, yeah, look, I think he's been given a lot of opportunities. I actually think he maybe is a weak link in the middle order because under pressure against quick bowling, I think he's susceptible. But you saw at Eden Gardens, he played a valuable innings there. I think they've got a pretty good mix in the side. The one player that probably hasn't got mentioned a lot is Ravindra Jadeja. I thought he had a big say in the match the other night. He came in and got a couple of fours late in the innings, took 2 crucial wickets and took that amazing catch on the second last ball. He's another player, a bit like Dhoni, who doesn't stand out that much, but what he does it very well. He's a bit of an unsung hero in that Indian side. I think they've got a pretty good mix. They've got it right. But perhaps if I was a selector, and I'm not, I'd have Rahane instead of Yuvraj Singh in the side.
I know we're running out of time. One quick question for Nasser before you close it. Is it David Warner versus Ravi Ashwin and Glenn Maxwell versus Ravi Ashwin? Switch hits against Ashwin?
Well, I mean, Ashwin's record against them are pretty good, so how Ashwin goes will be absolutely vital. I think that contest, whoever wins that contest will probably win the game. That's why Maxwell, how he plays Ashwin. If Maxwell goes out there thinking, I've got to show everyone that I'm all over Ashwin here and gets out early, I think that would be the foolish way to go. Even if you see Ashwin off a little bit, let Ashwin bowl his 4 overs for not too many, and then you can go after some of the younger lads in the Indian bowling lineup. But just to sort of flex your muscles and say, I'm going to show you, Ashwin, how I'm going to hit you everywhere. I'm not sure that's the right way to go. You never know with those two, though. They're not someone to take a backward step. Both of those, Warner and Maxwell, aren't someone to sit back and say, we're going to sit on you and go after someone else. They want to express themselves against everyone, Ashwin included.
One player we haven't talked about is Shane Watson, Steve. First of all, he's announced his retirement. So the game against Australia, against India, could potentially be his last in T20. But what do you make of the retirement? And he has a pretty decent record against Indian spinners and overall against India as well. Even in this format, he's hammered Jadeja and Ashwin in the past, has a pretty good strike rate against them. So he could be key as well, and, you know, given the stage.
Sure, look, he thinks he's got 3 games left, not just one. But look, he's been a really great player for Australia, particularly in the short formats of the game. He knows his game really well. I mean, he's mature, he's done well in India. He's been our best player in the IPL over the last 4 or 5 years at least. He has that experience, and now he has that extra incentive on going out on a high. So it's probably cleared his mind mentally. I think if he had any issues over his whole career, he probably overthought things and worried too much about stuff. Now he's got nothing to worry about. And I know in my last test match when I walked out to bat, I thought, I've got nothing to prove to anyone, just relax and enjoy the occasion. And that's, is actually the key to cricket, but it's really hard to do. So maybe now everything's been released and you might just see him finish in a flourish. But he's a key player for Australia because other players feed off his experience and his know-how and his technical ability. He's got a fantastic technique, and even in Bangalore the other night, the 6 hit was just a pure cricket shot. If he gets going, he's vital to Australia's chances.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great match. That's one thing that is granted. Nasser and Steve, thanks a lot for joining us. And of course, these two gentlemen will stay with us throughout the World T20 as we build up more to that match, isn't it?
It'll be one heck of a contest. May the best team win, because I can't say in front of Steve that India should. But Nasser, you're a convert, so we'll keep doing that when you're in Mohali. But thanks once again for watching. These two will be there. The best coverage, as always, on India Today.
Goodbye.
Now, Pakistan captain Shahid Afridi might have landed himself in trouble yet again while speaking about fans in India. Asked about fans in Mohali before their match with New Zealand on Tuesday.
Go to different villages across India and actually stay there for a month and see the villagers, help them. And what it does is it opens your eyes to a whole new part of India that you never really saw before. So Amrita gives